states that the president lost, Obasanjo then in 1999, to 10 states that he lost in 2003, to 12 states that President Goodluck Jonathan lost in 2011, to now the 15 states that he won in the northern part of Nigeria. So we still see a consistent trend of where the aggregated block of votes comes from. But it's interesting to understand what had happened that made the current president, still the current president, what made him lose. And it's the North Central. Even though the general won and has always been winning the aggregate blocks in history, he's never won the North Central. He's only won one state in the North Central previous, and that was the last election. He only won 9 states. This time around, he only lost 2 states. He won 4 out of the 6 states in North Central. He only lost Plateau State and Nasarawa State. So that has shifted. So that was significant to his victory this time around. The North Central was significant to his victory. The second thing that was significant to his victory was the Southwest. Historically, he's never won in the Southwest. This time around, the general won in the Southwest. That's the second thing that was important to getting him this victory. The third thing that was important to getting his victory was that in the region that the president is strong in, the voters just refused to turn up. And let's put this in perspective. In 2011, in the southeastern part of Nigeria, there were 3 states that the president had 1 million plus votes: Imo, Abia, Anambra. This time around, each of these states gave him less than 700,000.
In some cases, half.
So it dealt a significant blow to his result. Same thing in 2011.
The voters refused to turn up.
It was a mixture of the voters refused to turn up for him because
the figures have to
whatever reason we could, whatever cost
the figure was not just
the figures were not just the same. He needed there were strongholds that had given him the victory in the last election.
I read that poster because I was thinking that we just about having credible outcome of elections. When you talked about those ghost voters in those days, across the board, not just the Southeast, everywhere, people were just merely allocating votes. And it was overvoting, ballot box stuffing and multiple thumb printing were very, very rampant.
No, but in this case,
just a minute. What is the game changer in this election is that prior to this election, PVCs were distributed. And in each of the states, the number of distributed PVCs as distinct from the number of registered voters were known. So if you want to engage in any manipulation, perhaps because of resort to manual accreditation midway, you can't exceed the threshold of the PVCs issued.
We'll come back to this. I need to just...
and so when you say that the voters disappear, the reason why they disappear is
we'll come back
pretty
to
obvious.
I need to just get Chief Emeka Anyaoku in, former Secretary General to the Commonwealth. Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. What's your immediate reaction about what has just transpired? Because you were also visible when the peace accord was being signed at the time. What were your expectations, and has anything changed?
Well, I believe that President Jonathan, by calling General Buhari to congratulate him, has set the stage for a peaceful reaction to the result of the presidential elections. And he has demonstrated by that act an uncommon grace and nobility. He's done our country proud, and I believe has set a worthy example to our fellow African countries.
Now, what's your general impression about this elections that we're witnessing?
Well, the elections, I believe, have gone quite well. There have been a few skirmishes here and there, but on the whole, the election was peaceful and was very well conducted by INEC. I believe that Atahiru Jega, the chairman of INEC, deserves our praise and commendation.
Interesting. What are your immediate thoughts, though, concerning the kinds of figures? I know you've been monitoring the elections also, concerning the kinds of figures that we're seeing coming out from Nigeria's northeast that has been troubled by Boko Haram.
Well, I didn't quite hear all you said, but if my understanding of your comment or your question is the role of Boko Haram, it's been to a great relief that the threats which Boko Haram had posed were not realized. I believe that apart from one incident, that Boko Haram's threats and boasts came to nothing, really.
Do you see this action of his, which you say sets a big, good example, do you see it trickling down to perhaps other parts of the country in terms of when the state elections are eventually conducted?
I'm sorry, the reception is not very good, so I didn't really hear all you were saying.
All right, I'm saying that, first of all, do you see this a trend, this example, the good example you say he has set, perhaps for subsequent elections and also for the state elections as well, where it will be free of perhaps acrimony?
Well, the way that the country as a whole has behaved during this election shows that the democratic culture is beginning to sink in. And my hope is that future elections will be even a greater improvement on this one. So far, this has been one of the best elections the country has had in recent times.
And what impression has this elections given out to the international community?
The impression these elections has given, I believe that the rest of the world, going by what the international observers who've been here, what their comments have been, the rest of the world has commended Nigeria on these elections, and we remain hopeful that future elections in the country will be well run and even better organized.
Well, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us today, Chief Anyaoku.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get you back on this thought that you want to take your reactions there?
Yeah, no, Chamberlain, there's something that I found out with the results that I think will be significantly what a lot of people will be discussing. Now, if you look at the votes in Kano State, the total number of votes that the
almost
APC...
2 million?
Now, exactly. So the APC in Kano State had 1.9 million votes. Now, that vote block, just for the APC in Kano State, is more than the total number of votes that the PDP scored in all the 6 states of the Southwest combined. Now, I think that totally broke the back of the president when the results were released. So you got PDP looking at all the states, it scored votes across the Southwest. All those votes combined together were still lower than the votes the APC had in Kano. And that also significantly changed things for them. So the first was the general had won the North Central that they had never won before. Second was they got a huge chunk of citizens to vote for them in Kano. Then the president also, for whatever reason, either because they were ghost voters in the previous election, the numbers he normally would record, he didn't record them between the Southeast and the South. Those 3-4 factors led to him losing the chunk of the votes that he had expected.
But in Kano, this result, I mean, the last elections in 2011, they didn't have this much, 1.9, I don't think, I'm trying to